A surgical strike to eliminate the one man who dared to challenge the old order, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the fiery, unyielding leader of Burkina Faso. They believed they could snuff out his revolution before it spread like wildfire across the Sahel. But they were wrong. What followed wasn't just a failed mission, it was a seismic event that shook the very foundations of the African continent. This isn't just a story about power. It's about betrayal. About alliances forged in the heat of defiance. About a dangerous game being played by Africa's most powerful nations, a game where the stakes are nothing less than the soul of a continent. Today we're diving deep into a saga that's still unfolding. A tale of coups, conspiracies, and a young leader who refuses to bow. This is the story of the plot against Ibrahim Traoré, and how it ignited a revolution that could reshape Africa forever. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to the spark that lit this fire. The rise of a man who, in less than 2 years, turned the political order of West Africa upside down. Ibrahim Traoré wasn't born into privilege. He wasn't a politician groomed in elite circles or a diplomat schooled in foreign capitals. No, Traoré was a soldier, a former artillery captain forged in the crucible of Burkina Faso's relentless jihadist insurgency. At just 34 years old, he emerged from the barracks with a fire in his belly and a fury in his voice that would soon echo across the continent. In 2022, Burkina Faso was a nation under siege. Jihadist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State had turned the Sahel into a battleground. Entire villages were razed. Thousands were displaced. The government, led by interim President Paul-Henri Damiba, seemed powerless, or worse, complicit. Many Burkinabe believed Damiba's administration was too cozy with France, Burkina Faso's former colonial ruler, whose military presence and economic influence still loomed large. On September 30, 2022, Traoré made his move. In a lightning-fast coup, the second in Burkina Faso that year, he ousted Damiba, accusing him of failing to protect the nation and bending to foreign interests. The streets of Ouagadougou erupted in celebration. Young people, tired of corruption and insecurity, saw Traoré as a savior, a leader who spoke their language. "We will no longer be puppets," he declared in a speech that spread like wildfire. "Africa must rise. Africa must be free." His words weren't just rhetoric, they were a call to arms. Traoré didn't just seize power, he ignited a movement. He expelled French troops, shut down their military bases, and turned his gaze eastward, strengthening ties with Russia. His Pan-African message resonated far beyond Burkina Faso's borders, inspiring a generation of young Africans who saw him as the embodiment of defiance against a world order that had long exploited their continent. But with great power comes great danger. Traoré's rise didn't go unnoticed. His bold moves, rejecting France, challenging the Economic Community of West African States or ECOWAS and forging new alliances, made him a target. To some, he was a tyrant in uniform, consolidating power with an iron fist. To millions of Africa's youth, he was a symbol of hope, a leader willing to risk everything for a free Africa. But as Traoré's star rose, so did the shadows gathering around him. By early 2025, Traoré's vision was taking shape. He wasn't content to simply lead Burkina Faso, he wanted to reshape the Sahel. In a historic move, he joined forces with the military leaders of Mali and Niger to form the Alliance of Sahel States, or AS. This wasn't just a defensive pact, it was a political earthquake, a direct rejection of ECOWAS, the West African regional bloc long seen as a tool of Western influence. The AS was a declaration of sovereignty. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, three nations battered by insurgency and foreign interference, vowed to stand together. They would share intelligence, coordinate military operations, and most crucially reject the old guard of African politics. For Traoré this was personal. He saw ECOWAS as a relic of neocolonialism, propped up by powers like France and increasingly Nigeria, the regional heavyweight with its own ambitions. Nigeria, the giant of West Africa, had long positioned itself as the region's stabilizer. Its military and economic might made it a linchpin of ECOWAS, and its leaders were wary of the AES's growing influence. Traoré's fiery rhetoric and his pivot to Russia raised alarm bells in Abuja. Was this young captain a visionary, or a destabilizing force threatening West Africa's fragile unity? The stage was set for a collision. And it came sooner than anyone expected. It was January 2025, just weeks after the AES's formation. The air in Ouagadougou was thick with tension. Rumors swirled of foreign spies, shadowy operatives, and plots to undermine the new alliance. Then, on a moonless night near Burkina Faso's southern border, everything changed. Burkinabe intelligence operatives intercepted a convoy of 5 unmarked vehicles. Inside were armed men carrying forged ECOWAS credentials, satellite phones, encrypted laptops, and passports with suspicious travel patterns, stamps from Abuja, Lagos, and even Paris. The men refused to speak, their silence louder than any confession. One detail sent shockwaves through Burkina Faso's military. The Nigerian currency found in their possession was fresh, issued just weeks earlier. It was as if someone had planned this operation in haste, leaving a trail too obvious to ignore. "We have uncovered a plot to destabilize our nation," a Burkinabe official declared. The evidence points to external forces. Within hours, Burkina Faso's intelligence wing alerted their counterparts in Mali and Niger. The Sahel was on edge. Was this a rogue operation? A mercenary hit squad? Or something far more sinister? A coordinated attempt to eliminate Traoré and crush the IS before it could take root? On February 3, 2025, Captain Traoré stepped onto a stage in Ouagadougou to address his nation. The crowd was electric, their cheers drowning out the distant hum of military helicopters. What he said next would send ripples across Africa. "There are those among us who still take orders from foreign hands," he declared, "who fear a free Africa. Last night they tried to silence me. But they failed." He didn't name Nigeria outright. He didn't need to. The implication was clear and the continent understood. In Abuja, Nigerian officials scrambled to respond, issuing a statement dismissing the allegations as disinformation from unfriendly states. But the damage was done. Then came the leak that turned suspicion into outrage. A whistleblower within ECOWAS released audio clips, allegedly from a private call among Nigerian security officials. The voices spoke of Sahelian instability and the need for preventative measures. The clips were grainy, their authenticity unverified, but they spread like wildfire across social media. "We cannot allow this to spiral out of control," one voice said. "Action must be taken." For the first time in decades, Nigeria, the self-proclaimed giant of Africa, found itself cast as a villain. Protests erupted in Ouagadougou, Bamako, and even Accra, where young Africans raised their voices, shouting, "Stop the puppets! Stop the plot! Hands off Traoré! Africa for Africans!" The plot, if it was real, had backfired spectacularly. Traoré wasn't just a survivor, he was now a legend. Traoré didn't just survive the alleged plot, he turned it into a weapon. In one of the most dramatic diplomatic weeks in modern African history, the alliance of Sahel states made 3 stunning moves that reshaped the continent's geopolitical landscape. First, they announced a complete withdrawal from ECOWAS, severing ties with the bloc they accused of serving foreign interests. Second, they established a Pan-African intelligence network headquartered in Ouagadougou, a bold move to counter espionage and unite Sahelian nations against external threats. And third, in a move that sent shockwaves through Western capitals, they signed a formal military pact with Russia's Wagner successor group for cyber and counterintelligence support. But Traoré saved his most explosive card for last. In a televised address, he declared, "We have obtained evidence of multiple plots, coordinated by actors both internal and external. We will reveal this to the world. Africa must know the truth." The announcement triggered panic across diplomatic circles. Western embassies in West Africa went on high alert. Ghana and Senegal issued travel advisories. Nigeria, for its part, went eerily silent, a silence that spoke volumes. Meanwhile, a quieter war was brewing online. Hackers loyal to Traoré's cause, some rumored to be backed by Russian cyber units, began leaking documents. These files, real or fabricated, claimed to show covert surveillance by a foreign power on African military figures. Names, dates, and locations were exposed, fueling a growing narrative. Africa's enemies were no longer just foreign, they wore familiar faces. The leaks were a masterstroke. Whether true or not, they cemented Traoré's image as a leader who could outmaneuver his adversaries. Across the Sahel, his popularity soared. Young people shared stories of him as a lion, a warrior, a revolutionary. The old guard of African politics was crumbling, and Traoré was leading the charge. Months have passed since the alleged plot, and the story remains unresolved. Nigeria continues to deny any involvement, calling the accusations a smear campaign. The leaked audio has yet to be verified in international courts, and the intercepted convoy's origins remain a mystery. But the political damage is undeniable. Trust between Nigeria and the Sahel has been shattered. Niger, once a quiet partner of Abuja, expelled several Nigerian diplomats. Mali and Burkina Faso cut off ECOWAS-funded programs and tightened border controls. The dream of a united West Africa under ECOWAS is fading, replaced by a bolder, more defiant vision. One born from fire, fueled by betrayal, and shaped by young leaders like Traoré. Today the continent stands at a crossroads. The alliance of Sahel states is growing stronger, with whispers of other nations considering joining. Traoré's Pan-African message continues to inspire, but it also terrifies those invested in the status quo. Western powers, once dominant, are losing ground. Russia and China are filling the void. And Nigeria, the regional giant, is grappling with a crisis of credibility. So what does this mean for Africa's future? Was the plot against Traoré a desperate attempt to preserve peace, or to suppress a revolution? Was Traoré the target, or the one setting the trap? And most importantly, what does this saga reveal about the fight for Africa's independence in a world that still seeks to control it? The answers may lie in the hands of Africa's youth, millions who see in Traoré not just a leader, but a mirror of their own aspirations. This isn't just Burkina Faso's story. It's Africa's story. And it's far from over. Thank you for joining us on this gripping journey into one of the most explosive stories shaping Africa today. If this exposé moved you, if it made you think, then don't let it end here. Like this narration, subscribe to African Hub for more real stories shaking the continent, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. Before you go, let's talk. What do you think? Was Nigeria behind a plot to remove Traoré? Is this the beginning of a new African Cold War? Or is Traoré himself orchestrating a master plan to unite the continent? Share your thoughts. We read every single one. And if you want to dive deeper, check out our other stories on Africa's new wave of leaders. This is African Hub, where the truth finds its voice. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep fighting for a free Africa.